Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Entertainment with Buford and Francis. Today I'll be cosplaying as Francis from the Fairly Odd Parents, and he's going to be telling the story of Alice in Wonderland. Enjoy the video. On a golden summer day in the park in England, Alice is listening to her sister read aloud from a history book, to which Alice vocally expresses her boredom. Wandering off without her sister noticing, Alice lays down on a riverbank, wishing that she had a world of her own. Suddenly, Alice sees a white rabbit wearing spectacles, a red waistcoat, and carrying a large golden pocket watch. He frantically exclaims how late he is, which sparks Alice's curiosity and causes her to follow him down a rabbit hole. As Alice crawls deep inside, the rabbit hole dips suddenly down, causing her to fall into it. Unable to do anything about the situation she was in, Alice slows down her fall, amazed at what just happened. Her dress inflates and Alice continues to float down the rabbit hole, wondering what could happen to her. Without anything else to do, Alice decides to admire the decorations and knickknacks adorning the walls of the rabbit hole. She lands upside down with her dress deflating and follows the rabbit into a large hallway, the tiny door at the other end barely big enough for Alice's head. The doorknob tells her that drinking from a bottle marked "Drink Me" will help her. She is startled to find that the bottle and the table it is sitting on have appeared out of nowhere. Alice drinks the bottle's contents and starts shrinking until she becomes the right size, but the doorknob reveals that he's locked. Frustrated, Alice is told by the doorknob that a cake marked with the words "Eat Me" will help her reach the key that's mysteriously appeared on the now giant glass table. Mr. Doorknob appeared the key on the table with his magic for an unknown purpose, making Alice feel very stressed and upset. Why he'd do such a thing? And the box of cookies has also materialized out of nowhere. This time when Alice starts eating the cake, she suddenly expands until her head and legs are cramped in the hallway. Alice begins to weep hysterically, that her massive tears flood the room, which splash like huge puddles. The doorknob points out that the "Drink Me" bottle still has some fluid inside, so Alice stops crying and sips some the best she can at her height. Alice suddenly shrinks and becomes so small that she fits inside the bottle. She and the bottle both travel through the doorknob's keyhole mouth and out to the sea formed by Alice's tears. A group of animals, led by a dodo, engages in a caucus race, a race without a real ending or winner, to get dry. Alice spots the white rabbit and follows him into a secluded glade in the middle of a thick forest. She meets Tweedledee and Tweedledum, two fat brothers who take particular delight in reciting poems and songs. They perform a poem for Alice called "The Walrus and the Carpenter," which tells the two titular characters luring some oysters to their lair and subsequently eating them all. Alice sneaks away as they attempt to recite another poem for her, and she comes upon the white rabbit's house with its owner inside. Before Alice has a chance to ask him why he's so frantically late, he berates her, thinking her to be his housemaid, Mary Ann, and orders her to fetch his gloves from his bedroom. Inside, Alice decides to eat another cookie, resulting in her growing so large that she gets stuck inside the house, her arms and legs sticking out the windows and doors. She tries to pull herself out, but is too big. The white rabbit pleads for the help of the dodo to get her out, thinking her to be some sort of ferocious monster. The dodo summons a chimney sweep lizard named Bill to rip the house's chimney off. Bill's scampering down the chimney causes soot to rise and Alice to sneeze, shooting Bill up towards the sky. The dodo then attempts to burn the house down using some of the white rabbit's broken furniture, much to his dismay. Alice frantically looks for a solution to her dilemma and finds one in the form of a carrot in the white rabbit's garden. After eating, Alice shrinks down to 3 inches in size. The rabbit runs off again this time into a garden of flowers. Because of Alice's size, the flowers are as tall as trees to her. Initially, they are eager to entertain her, but when she reveals that she's not a flower, they suspect that she may be a weed and throw her out in a panic. Alice gets over her annoyance at their rudeness quickly when she sees a blue caterpillar blowing smoke rings in the air. Each ring takes the form of a letter or symbol that the caterpillar is saying. Despite her best efforts to ask him how to grow tall again, the caterpillar continuously interrupts her, instructing her to recite various bizarre poems. Fed up with how short-tempered he is, Alice storms off. Suddenly, the caterpillar tells her to come back because he has something important to tell her. Though already angered, Alice returns to him. The caterpillar asks her what exactly her problem is, to which she says she would like to become bigger because her current height is too small for her. He grows angry at her displeasure of being the same height as him and turns into a butterfly in a rage, though not before giving her cryptic advice about the mushroom she is sitting on. Alice breaks off 2 pieces from either side of the mushroom. She takes a bite of the first piece, which causes her to grow so tall that her head sticks out of the trees and alarms a nesting mother bird that thinks she is a serpent. She then takes a bite of the second piece and shrinks back down to 3 inches high. Alice finally grows back to her normal size with a small lick of the first piece and decides to put both mushroom pieces into her pockets. Wandering through the woods, she meets the Cheshire Cat, an eerily grinning feline that can disappear and reappear at will. Alice tries her best to ask him where the White Rabbit has gone, but her attempts are futile as he speaks vaguely and in riddles. He finally points her in the direction of the March Hare's house. It is here that Alice sees a long tea table set up outside with the March Hare himself, accompanied by a Mad Hatter and a Dormouse. She finds out that they are celebrating their unbirthdays, which is a day of the year when it's not one's birthday. Alice is briefly included in the celebrations before they maniacally dash about the tea table, offering Alice tea, but never giving her any. When the White Rabbit shows up, the Hatter and Hare attempt to fix his pocket watch, but end up destroying the process. After they've literally thrown him out of the tea table, Alice tries to run after him, but finds that he has disappeared again. Soon, Alice gives up trying to track the White Rabbit down and decides to spend her time trying to get back home. She finds herself more and more lost in a forest called Tulgey Wood, filled with bizarre creatures that either snap at Alice or pay no attention to her. Finally, realizing that Wonderland was nothing at all like she imagined and regretting her rejection of her real life, Alice breaks down crying. Luckily, she then finds the Cheshire Cat again. He opens a door in a tree that leads to a seemingly never-ending hedge maze, telling Alice that the Queen of Hearts could possibly help her. She meets some giant playing cards, painting white roses red, since the Queen only prefers red and will behead them if she discovers their mistake. Alice tries to help them, but the White Rabbit appears and heralds the arrival of the Queen, her significantly shorter husband, and her massive pack of cards army. The Queen has a ferocious temper and is prone to having anyone beheaded at a moment's notice, to which she applies to the card painters who unsuccessfully painted the white roses. Randomly switching between bipolar moods, she invites Alice to play a game of croquet with her, using flamingos as mallets, hedgehogs as balls, and card soldiers as goals. The Queen actively cheats during the game and beheads anyone who dares stand in the way of her victory. The Cheshire Cat appears on the Queen and causes mischief, despite Alice pointing him out. He manages to disappear, becoming fed up. She warns Alice if she loses her temper, Alice will lose her head. Alice tries to play, but her flamingo mallet won't cooperate with her, causing trouble. Soon the Cheshire Cat attaches the beak of the Queen's flamingo mallet to the bottom of her dress, resulting in her toppling over and revealing her underwear. The cat disappears in time to show Alice hitting her hedgehog ball, which the cards let miss, and the hedgehog hits the rose bush. The queen is furious, but before the queen can sentence her to decapitation, the king suggests that they have a trial, which she agrees to. The Dormouse, the March Hare, and the Mad Hatter all come forth as witnesses that add nothing whatsoever to the trial at hand. When the subject of unbirthdays arises, everyone in the courtroom celebrates the queen's. Thanks to some mischief by the Cheshire cat, pandemonium ensues. Alice suddenly remembers that the mushrooms were still in her pocket and shoves both pieces into her mouth, growing to gigantic proportions. The king orders her to leave, as she is in violation of rule number 42, which states that all people more than a mile high in size are not permitted in the court, but she refuses. At this size, Alice scolds the queen for her rash behavior, but then starts shrinking back to her normal size all too soon. The queen orders for her guards to execute Alice, which results in a frantic chase through Wonderland. Various characters Alice met on her journey appear and inexplicably join the queen and her guards in the pursuit. Coming back to the doorknob, Alice is told by him that he's still locked and that she's already on the other side. Looking through the keyhole, Alice sees herself asleep in the park. At that point, Alice realizes that everything in Wonderland is all just a dream. She urgently bangs on the door, and the mob draws closer until she gradually awakens to the sound of her sister's voice. Both Alice and her sister return home, and Alice is still in thought of her crazy dream.